is going on, guys? It is WrestleMania here, back with another episode. You know, wrestling pay-per-views should always be headlined by some of the biggest names in the business battling one another. But what happens when your main event features someone who has no business headlining a bingo hall, let alone a pay-per-view? In today's episode, we're going to look at 10 instances where a pay-per-view's main event featured the worst choice of wrestler to ever headline a pay-per-view. Number 1. Finley. Hey, we all admire Finley's ability in the ring and work ethic, but what was he doing in the main event at No Mercy in 2006? Finley was part of a fatal four-way between World Heavyweight Champion Booker T, Batista and Bobby Lashley, and quite frankly, his purpose was to do the JOB, counting the lights after Booker T covered him for the win. Anyone familiar with the inner workings of wrestling knew Finley had about as much chance of winning the World Heavyweight Championship as John Cena winning an Academy Award. Number 2. Gene Snitsky. According to wrestling legend, Gene Snitsky was only supposed to make one-off appearance on Raw, the infamous night he accidentally caused Lita to miscarry Kane's demon seed during his bout with the Big Red Machine. However, he proved popular enough with his "it wasn't my fault" catchphrase that he was brought back and inserted into a feud with Kane. After putting Kane on the shelf so the Big Red Machine could film his horrible horror movie See No Evil, Snitsky worked on Triple H's team in the main event at Survivor Series in 2004. Snitsky enjoyed a surprising push for someone whose later push would be based on his back knee. Number 3. Jay Leno. For younger fans, Jay Leno was the guy who hosted The Tonight Show before Jimmy Fallon. So, what was Leno doing in the main event at a WCW pay-per-view? To be honest, we're still trying to figure that one out. Perhaps the head of NBC won a bet with Ted Turner, or maybe WCW's merchandise department foresaw a chance to sell Jay Leno wrestling figures complete with Leno's trademark Quagmire chin. Whatever the reason, all we know is that Eric Bischoff stepped into the ring alongside the New World Order leader Hollywood Hogan to take on DDP and Leno. This wasn't the first time Bischoff had brought in celebrities. The previous month saw Hogan team up with NBA star Dennis Rodman to defeat DDP and NBA star Karl Malone at Bash at the Beach, doing a 1.5 buy rate. However, Leno's lack of athletic credentials made his role in the main event looked down by some of the fans. And while his presence got WCW some publicity, it did a 0.3 buy rate. Decent, but not fantastic. This main event is arguably best known for the terrible segments on Nitro, where Eric Bischoff recreated the set of The Tonight Show and copied Leno's monologues. Word has it that Turner's standards and practices forbid Bischoff from doing any more monologues because they were considered too racy for Nitro. Of course, the fact that they sucked the life out of the audience might have something more to do with it. Number 4. David Arquette. The genius wrestling mind of Vince Russo knew that celebrities have helped in getting wrestling events over, whether it was Mr. T at the first WrestleMania or Mike Tyson at WrestleMania 14. However, what possible role could actor David Arquette serve other than to get fans to watch reruns of Murder, She Wrote? By 2000, WCW was in bad shape, and they decided to tap into the popularity of the wrestling film Ready to Rumble, starring Arquette himself with a few WCW wrestlers. Here's the deal though, the film reportedly cost $24 million to make and only brought in $12 million. So what does that say about its popularity? That still didn't stop WCW from bringing Arquette in to not only appear on WCW television, but to win the WCW Heavyweight Championship in a tag match where the person who scored the pinfall won the WCW strap. After Arquette pinned Eric Bischoff, he went on to successfully defend the belt against Tank Abbott, and at 2000 Slamboree pay-per-view, Arquette faced Diamond Dallas Page and Jeff Jarrett in the Ready to Rumble cage match, turning on DDP and allowing Jarrett to win the belt. Incredibly, Arquette even appeared at the New Blood Rising pay-per-view, interfering in the Judy Bagwell on a forklift match between Buff Bagwell and Kanyon. If David Arquette and Judy Bagwell on a forklift match aren't enough to explain why WCW folded, you must be a member of the Russo family. Number 5. The Butcher, aka Brutus Beefcake. We've said it before and we'll say it again. Hulk Hogan's entry into WCW in 1994 was so bad that the book of the death of WCW had an entire chapter written about it. After emasculating WCW cornerstone Nature Boy Ric Flair in a series that saw Hogan retire Flair, WCW ran a main event program with the Hulkster against Brutus Beefcake. As much as that made WCW fans want to carpet bomb WCW, it was nothing compared to the insult of where it happened at. Starrcade, WCW's flagship pay-per-view and the show that began the wrestling pay-per-view business as we know it. Beefcake couldn't wrestle as his WWF Brutus Beefcake character or his thinly veiled WCW Brother Brutai name. Instead, he wrestled as the evil heel, The Butcher, a character so damn cheesy he could have replaced Chester Cheeto. The main event match was a disaster and ran an incredible 12 minutes, as if the quantity of watching Hogan and The Butcher stumble around the ring could make up for the match's complete lack of quality. Rumor has it to this day the match is still used by North Korea as a method of torturing its political prisoners. Number 6. The Great Khali. The Great Khali was a big man and he looked imposing until he started trying basic wrestling moves like walking and standing in front of the right TV camera. That didn't stop Vince McMahon from putting the big goof into the main event though, pitting Khali against WWE Champion John Cena at 2007's Judgment Day, followed by a rematch at One Night Stand. When Khali was drafted to SmackDown, he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and although he didn't wrestle in the last match on pay-per-views, he wrestled second to last at 2007's Great American Bash pay-per-view. Never has one wrestler done so much with so little talent. Number 7. Ronnie Garvin. Yes, Ronnie Garvin, perhaps best known to the WWF fans as Rugged Ronnie Garvin, held the NWA's most prestigious belt in a scenario that still has fans wondering what happened. In 1987, Jim Crockett Promotions decided to take the NWA's top belt off the Nature Boy Ric Flair, a rare occurrence as Crockett liked to have heels chase Flair for the championship. Crockett made the curious choice of having journeyman Ronnie Garvin win the belt on September 25th, then booked a cage match rematch for the promotion's flagship show, Starrcade. Rather than putting Garvin over as a worthy champion, Crockett scheduled only a few title defenses until the November 26 pay-per-view, putting forth the storyline reason that both men were training for the big match. By the time Garvin got into the cage, the fans were cheering for the heel Flair, an indication of how poorly the Garvin run had been booked. If Crockett wanted to elevate Garvin to a higher level, they handled it as poorly as Michael J. Fox performing brain surgery. Number 8. John Laurinitis. Former dynamic dude Johnny Ace finally reached the top of the mountain when he wrestled John Cena in the main event at 2012's Over the Limit pay-per-view. However, his wrestling career had long been over and Laurinitis was general manager of Raw and SmackDown. After repeatedly making life miserable for John Cena, considered a public service by some fans, Laurinitis was forced into a match with Cena with the stipulation that Laurinitis would be fired if Cena won and that anyone who interfered would be fired. Unfortunately for Cena, the Big Show, who had been fired by Laurinitis for mocking the GM's voice, returned and laid Cena out with his WMD knockout punch. Number 9. Chronic. Handicap matches with heels facing a babyface aren't rare, but what in the blue hell was the team of Chronic doing against Bill Goldberg at Halloween Havoc 2000? Even taking into account that WCW was skidding out faster than Paul Walker did into a tree, there's no explanation why this team was the main event and not the WCW Heavyweight Championship match between Booker T and Scott Steiner. Well, there might be an explanation if you believe the name Chronic was more than just a tag team and the drug of choice by WCW's bookers. Number 10. The Dungeon of Doom. As Hell in a Kennel would do to Hell in a Cell, so did this bout do to the once majestic War Games match. Here Hulk Hogan, who else of course, got his pals Randy Savage, Lex Luger and Sting to battle 4 guys who had no business being in the main event, or at least this point in their career. Kamala main evented house shows against Hogan in the 80s, but this was 1995 for Christ's sakes. Zodiac aka Brutus Beefcake aka The Butcher headlined Starrcade months earlier, but as we noted, he had as much business there as Shaquille O'Neal did in a recording studio. The Shark aka Earthquake main evented SummerSlam 1990, but his shark character was a pale imitation of the once mighty Earthquake. As for Meng, he's tough as nails, but that doesn't make him a main eventer. This was symptomatic of how bad WCW was in 1995. Dare we go on to Uncensored and the Alliance to End Hulkamania, or should we save that pay-per-view for a video on its own? Well, there you have it guys, 10 instances where insanity or the use of PCP must have been in play when these main events were booked. Did we miss any main event malfunctions? Let us know in the comment section below. Might we see such future main events like PewDiePie vs Chris Jericho? Selena Gomez vs Charlotte? We don't know what the future holds, other than this channel being back for some more wrestling content.